Imagine awakening each morning with a heart so still that no insult can wound it, no chaos can disturb it, no harsh word can steal your breath. Imagine moving through the noise of the world as a mountain moves through clouds, touched yet unmoved. This is not a fantasy reserved for monks in distant forests or sages carved in stone. It is a human possibility, a quiet strength that can be cultivated moment by moment, breath by breath. The Buddha never promised a life without storms. He promised a way to build a shelter within, a sanctuary not made of walls, but of understanding, not protected by force, but by wisdom. When the world pulls, demands, provokes, and judges, this inner refuge remains untouched. And from this place, a profound freedom is born. So many of us search for peace as if it were hidden somewhere inside success, relationships, recognition, or control. Yet the Buddha gently reminded us true peace does not come from arranging the world, but from understanding the mind. Everything external is unstable. Praise turns into blame. Gain becomes loss. Pleasure fades into longing. If our peace depends on these shifting sands, then unrest becomes inevitable. This journey you are beginning is not about escaping life. It is about learning how to meet life differently. Not with clenched fists, but with open hands. Not with resistance, but with clarity. Over the next chapters, we will walk through timeless Buddhist principles, not as abstract philosophy, but as lived wisdom. These are not ideas to admire from afar. They are tools meant to be used in the middle of ordinary days, difficult conversations, silent disappointments, and unexpected joy. Picture a still lake at dawn. The surface is clear, reflecting the sky perfectly. Now imagine a stone being thrown into it. Ripples appear instantly. Yet, if no more stones are thrown, the water always returns to stillness. The lake does not argue with the stone. It does not chase the ripples. It simply allows them to pass. This image holds the essence of inner peace. The Buddha taught that suffering does not come from what happens to us, but from what we cling to afterward. This is where our first principle begins. Insults, criticism, and offenses are inevitable in human life. Words will be spoken carelessly. Judgments will be made unfairly. Opinions will be thrown at us like stones. But Buddhism asks a radical question. Where does the real harm occur? It is not the words themselves that wound us. It is our attachment to them. When someone insults you, the sound reaches your ears and then fades. That is all. But the mind often reaches back, grabs the words, and repeats them, over and over. Each repetition deepens the wound. We replay the moment, imagine responses we never said, and rehearse arguments in silence. Long after the other person has moved on, we are still bleeding. The Buddha offered a sharp and compassionate insight. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. The bitterness does not travel outward. It circulates within us. Often, insults are not weapons aimed at truth, but mirrors reflecting the speaker's inner turmoil. A person drowning in insecurity throws stones, not because the water is calm, but because it is not. When we understand this, something shifts. The insult loses its personal weight. Compassion quietly replaces defensiveness. Ask yourself gently, what pain must this person be carrying to speak this way? This question does not excuse harm, but it frees you from becoming its prisoner. To practice this principle does not mean pretending you feel nothing. The initial sting is natural. Even the Buddha acknowledged that sensations arise. But suffering begins when we identify with the sensation. When this hurt happened becomes "this defines me." Mindfulness is the key that loosens this knot. When anger arises, notice it. Name it. Anger is present. Not I am angry, but anger is here. This small shift creates space. In that space, you are no longer drowning inside the emotion, you are observing it from the shore. Like a cloud passing across the sky, it appears, changes shape, and dissolves. Meditation strengthens this capacity. Sitting in silence, watching the breath, we learn to witness thoughts without chasing them. Over time, the mind becomes less reactive. Words lose their power to hook us. Insults land, but they do not lodge. Another pillar of this practice is remembering impermanence. Nothing spoken lasts. No criticism stays sharp forever. Even the most painful words fade like echoes in a canyon. When we remember this, urgency dissolves. We stop treating temporary moments as permanent truths. There is also great healing in self-compassion. When hurt arises, do not add a second wound by judging yourself for feeling it. Speak inwardly as you would to a dear friend. Of course this hurts, and it will pass. Kindness toward yourself shortens suffering more than force ever could. Imagine again the lake. A stone falls. Ripples spread, but the water does not panic. It does not chase the disturbance. It trusts its own nature to return to stillness. This is the art of inner calm. When you no longer give insults a permanent home in your mind, something extraordinary happens. Your peace becomes self-sustaining. No one can steal it. No one can give it. It is yours because it is not dependent. The Buddha never asked us to harden ourselves against the world. He asked us to soften our grip on what cannot truly harm us. In doing so, we become unshakable, not because we resist life, but because we understand it. As you move forward, remember this. Every insult is a test, not of your worth, but of your freedom. Each time you let the ripples settle, you reclaim a piece of your life. And with every breath, the lake grows calmer. There is a quiet revolution that begins the moment you stop asking, "Why is this person doing this to me?" and start asking, "What is this moment trying to teach me?" In that single shift, the world changes shape. Enemies become mirrors. Strangers become messengers. Even the ones who unsettle you, especially the ones who unsettle you, begin to carry a strange kind of wisdom. Buddhism offers a view of life that is both humbling and liberating. We do not walk through existence alone. Every encounter is part of a web of conditions, causes, and effects braided together across time. A harsh word does not arise from nowhere. A kind gesture is not random. Each meeting is a crossing of paths shaped by countless unseen forces, upbringing, fear, longing, ignorance, love, fatigue, history. When you truly see this, you stop making life a courtroom. You stop searching for villains. You begin to understand. And understanding is the doorway to peace. The Buddha taught that our liberation is not separate from the beings around us. In one of the simplest truths, he pointed to a profound interdependence. When you care for yourself wisely, you become capable of caring for others. When you care for others skillfully, you cultivate your own heart. The boundaries between me and them begin to soften. The world is no longer divided into supporters and threats. It becomes a living classroom. This is the second principle: transform everyone into a teacher. At first, it sounds poetic, pleasant even. Of course, we can learn from the wise, the gentle, the inspiring. But Buddhism does not stop there. It dares to say you can learn from the difficult ones too. The impatient coworker, the friend who disappears when you need them, the stranger who glares as if you have stolen something from their soul. They may not intend to teach you, but life uses them as instruments anyway. Not because you deserve mistreatment, not because suffering is good, but because the mind can turn even pain into awakening if it meets the moment with clarity instead of blindness. Consider a story. A traveler once arrived at a small village carrying a heavy sack of salt. He was tired, irritated, and suspicious of everyone. At the edge of the village, he met an old woman drawing water from a well. He demanded directions, speaking sharply, as if the world owed him kindness. The old woman did not argue. She simply looked at him and said, "Your tongue is covered in the salt you carry." Then she offered him a cup of water. The traveler drank. His mouth softened. His eyes lowered. Suddenly he understood it was not the village that tasted bitter. It was his own mind. Some teachers do not give lectures. They reveal your inner state. In Buddhism, a teacher is not always someone who speaks truth. Sometimes a teacher is someone who exposes where your ego clings, where your patience cracks, where your compassion still has conditions. When someone triggers you, they are not controlling your peace. They are revealing the places where your peace is still dependent. This perspective changes how you interpret relationships. Instead of collecting grievances, you collect insights. Instead of rehearsing blame, you practice awareness. Now, learning from joyful people is also sacred. When you meet someone whose presence feels like sunlight, do not rush past it. Let it teach you. Let it remind you that goodness is real. A person's generosity can train your own heart toward giving. Their calm can show you what steadiness looks like. Their discipline can awaken your own commitment. Inspiration is a teacher too, if you receive it with humility rather than comparison. But the deeper practice emerges when life presents the unwanted instructor. Imagine someone criticizes you unfairly. The old habit is to defend, to attack, to replay. The Buddhist habit is to pause and ask, what within me feels threatened? Is it my pride, my fear of being misunderstood, my craving to be seen as good? This is not self-blame. This is self-knowledge. And self-knowledge is freedom. When someone is rude, you can learn patience, not as a concept, but as a lived experience. When someone betrays trust, you can learn discernment. When someone misunderstands you, you can learn to release the addiction to being perfectly seen. When someone refuses to apologize, you can learn the painful art of letting go. One of the most powerful lessons difficult people offer is this: you cannot control hearts. You can only choose your own. This is where tolerance is born, not the kind that tolerates harm, but the kind that understands human limitation. Tolerance in Buddhism does not mean you allow abuse. It means you stop expecting every person to be awake. You stop demanding that the world behave according to your preferences. You begin to see that people act from their conditioning, and conditioning is often tangled. When we recognize this, we naturally grow more compassionate. And compassion does something that anger never can. It protects your peace without hardening your heart. There is another subtle gift in seeing everyone as a teacher: humility. We often believe wisdom belongs to certain appearances, age, status, education, spiritual vocabulary. But Buddhism reminds us that insight can arrive through unexpected doors. A child's simple question can shatter your assumptions. A quiet janitor's patience can expose your arrogance. A stranger's brief kindness can restore your faith in humanity. When you approach life with the mind of a student, the world becomes abundant with guidance. How do you practice this in daily life? First, you pause after an interaction, especially one that disturbed you. Not to ruminate, but to reflect. You ask, what did this reveal in me? What did it test? What did it invite me to strengthen? Second, you cultivate empathy. You try even briefly to imagine the other person's inner weather. This is not to excuse harm, but to dissolve hatred. Hatred poisons the one who holds it. Third, you practice gratitude, not for mistreatment, but for the chance to become freer. Gratitude for growth. Gratitude for the mirror, even when the reflection is uncomfortable. Fourth, you remember interdependence. Your peace affects others. Your reactivity spreads. Your calm spreads too. When you choose wise response over impulsive reaction, you do not only save yourself, you change the atmosphere around you. A life lived this way becomes lighter. You stop dragging a long chain of resentment behind you. You stop collecting reasons to be bitter. You start collecting reasons to awaken. And slowly, almost invisibly, you begin to realize something astonishing. The world has not become kinder, but you have become steadier. The people around you have not become perfect, but your mind has become more spacious. Chaos may still swirl, but it no longer lives inside you. In the next step of our journey, we will meet an emotion that quietly corrodes joy, envy, and learn how Buddhism transforms it into fuel for growth rather than poison for the heart. Until then, hold this principle close. Every person is a teacher, and every meeting is a lesson in disguise. There is a subtle suffering that often goes unnoticed because it hides behind ambition, admiration, and comparison. It whispers instead of shouts. It smiles while it wounds. Buddhism names it clearly envy, and yet the Buddha did not treat envy as a moral failure. He treated it as a signal and emotion pointing towards something unfinished within us. Envy arises the moment we measure our inner world against someone else's outer life. We see their success, their talent, their confidence, their peace, and something tightens inside us. A quiet voice says, "Why not me?" If we are not careful, that voice grows louder. It turns into resentment, into self-doubt, into the belief that another person's light somehow steals from our own. Buddhism offers a different lens. It teaches that envy is not the enemy. Misunderstanding envy is. The Buddha once said, "Do not be jealous of others' good qualities. Out of admiration, adopt them yourself." In this single sentence, envy is transformed from poison into medicine. The emotion itself is not rejected, it is redirected. This is the third principle, transform envy into emulation. To do this, we must first understand what envy truly is. Envy is born from desire, desire mixed with comparison. It is the pain of wanting what we believe we lack. But beneath that pain is something revealing. Envy shows us what we value. It reveals the direction of our longing. If you feel envy toward someone's discipline, perhaps you value consistency. If you envy someone's kindness, perhaps your heart longs to express love more freely. If you envy success, perhaps you desire purpose, recognition, or impact. Envy is not random. It is a message written in discomfort. The problem begins when we turn that message into a verdict about our worth. Comparison is a crude instrument. It ignores context. It erases unseen struggles. It reduces complex human lives into highlight reels and hierarchies. When you compare yourself to another, you are comparing different soil, different weather, different seasons. Buddhism teaches that each being walks a unique path shaped by countless conditions. To measure yourself against another is to misunderstand both of you. Imagine two trees growing in different landscapes. One grows near water, the other on rocky ground. Their shapes will differ. Their growth will differ. But neither is failing at being a tree. When envy arises, mindfulness invites us to pause instead of react. Instead of pushing the feeling away or indulging it, we observe it. Envy is present. Not I am envious, but envy is here. This distance matters. It returns choice to us. Now comes the turning point. Rather than allowing envy to harden into resentment, we soften it into admiration. We ask, what exactly do I admire in this person? Not vaguely, precisely. Is it their patience, their courage, their creativity, their dedication? Once named, the feeling shifts. What was heavy becomes directional. Admiration says, this is possible. Envy says, this is unfair. One closes the heart, the other opens it. Buddhism teaches that no one's success diminishes your potential. Another person's awakening does not delay yours. The world is not a limited supply of worth. When you truly see this, envy loosens its grip. From admiration, we move to emulation. This is where transformation becomes practical. Emulation asks, what steps did they take? What habits support this quality? What inner attitudes sustain this outcome? Instead of staring at the result, we study the path. A musician you admire practiced for years. A calm person you envy trained their mind through patience and pain. A compassionate leader learned through failure and self-examination. When you see this, comparison dissolves. Respect replaces rivalry. There is also a quieter practice that Buddhism offers, mudita, sympathetic joy. It is the ability to feel genuine happiness for another person's good fortune. Mudita is not denial. It is expansion. It says, your joy does not threaten me. It enriches the world I live in. At first, this practice feels unnatural, especially when envy is strong. But like all mental training, it grows with repetition. You begin by wishing well silently. May your success bring you peace. Over time, the heart learns that celebration is lighter than competition. Another essential aspect of this principle is gratitude. Envy narrows attention. Gratitude widens it. When you consciously acknowledge what is already present in your life, your growth, your opportunities, your strengths, the urgency of comparison fades. You stop chasing someone else's reflection and return to your own unfolding. Buddhism does not teach us to suppress ambition. It teaches us to purify it. Ambition rooted in envy is restless and bitter. Ambition rooted in clarity is steady and joyful. One drains you, the other sustains you. There is great peace in remembering this. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where your causes and conditions have brought you. From here, growth is always possible. When envy transforms into emulation, relationships heal. Instead of distance, there is respect. Instead of silent competition, there is shared inspiration. You begin to learn from others without feeling diminished by them. You walk your path with confidence, not because you are superior, but because you are sincere. The Buddha never urged comparison. He urged cultivation. Tend your mind. Tend your actions. Tend your heart. Let others' light show you what is possible, not what you lack. In the next part, we will explore a principle that balances strength and compassion, how to be disciplined with yourself while remaining tolerant of others. This balance is where dignity and kindness meet. There is a delicate balance. The Buddha pointed to a balance that, when understood, brings both strength and softness into our lives. Without it, we become either harsh with ourselves and others, or indulgent toward ourselves while intolerant of the world. With it, we walk a middle path where discipline and compassion coexist. This is the fourth principle: be strict with yourself, but tolerant of others. At first glance, this teaching may seem paradoxical. Why hold yourself to higher standards than those you place on others? Why demand more from your own conduct while excusing the flaws of those around you? Buddhism answers gently, because this is where freedom lives. You can influence your own mind. You cannot control another's. When we attempt to regulate the behavior of others, we invite frustration. When we neglect responsibility for ourselves, we invite chaos. The Buddha taught us to turn our effort inward, not as an act of self-judgment, but as an act of respect for our own potential. Being strict with yourself does not mean punishing yourself for mistakes. It means committing to awareness. It means watching your intentions, your speech, your actions. It means asking again and again, does this align with the life I want to live? Discipline in Buddhism is not a cage. It is a compass. A person without discipline is at the mercy of impulse. Anger decides for them. Desire drives them. Fear whispers commands they obey without question. Discipline interrupts this chain. It creates a pause between urge and action. In that pause, wisdom can speak. If you value honesty, you practice it even when lying would be easier. If you value kindness, you choose it even when bitterness feels justified. If you value clarity, you sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. This kind of self-discipline builds self-respect. When your actions align with your values, something settles inside you. You trust yourself. You know who you are, even when circumstances shake. But here is the crucial second half of the principle: tolerance toward others. Just as you are learning, struggling, failing, and trying again, so is everyone else. Buddhism recognizes that beings act from conditioning habits shaped by past experiences, fears, ignorance, and unmet needs. When we forget this, we demand that others be awake when they are not. We demand fairness from a world still learning compassion. Tolerance does not mean approving of harm. It does not mean abandoning boundaries. It means releasing the fantasy that people will behave according to our expectations. It means responding wisely rather than reactively. Imagine holding a burning coal in your hand because someone else threw it. You can drop it, or you can squeeze it and burn yourself further. Tolerance is the act of opening your hand. When someone behaves poorly, the mind often rushes to judgment. They should know better. But Buddhism asks a different question. What suffering might be speaking through this behavior? This question does not excuse harm, but it dissolves hatred. And hatred is always heavier than justice. When you practice tolerance, your nervous system relaxes. You stop bracing against the world. You stop needing others to be different in order for you to be at peace. This is power, not the power to dominate, but the power to remain centered. The balance between self-discipline and tolerance creates equanimity. You become firm without being rigid, soft without being weak. You hold yourself accountable without condemning yourself. You hold others with understanding without losing your ground. How does this look in daily life? You notice your own speech. You choose words carefully, even when emotions run high. You observe your habits. You work patiently to replace those that harm you with those that nourish you. You forgive yourself when you fall short, and you return to the path without drama. At the same time, when others fall short, you do not rush to correct them. You do not build an identity around being right. You allow space. You set boundaries if needed, but without contempt. You remember this moment is not the whole of who they are. There is a quiet dignity in this way of living. You stop wasting energy trying to manage others. You invest it in refining your own heart. And as your presence becomes steadier, something unexpected happens. Others feel it. Without preaching, without pressure, your example invites change. This is how transformation spreads in Buddhism, not through force, but through embodiment. The Buddha once reminded us that we are as deserving of love and understanding as any other being in the universe. This includes ourselves. Self-discipline without self-compassion becomes cruelty. Tolerance for others without responsibility for oneself becomes avoidance. The middle way holds both. When you walk this path, conflicts lose their sharpness. You are no longer constantly offended because you are not constantly expecting perfection. You are no longer constantly disappointed because you have accepted human limitation, including your own. In the next part, we will explore a deeply liberating insight, the understanding that no one can truly hurt you without your participation. This teaching does not deny pain, it reclaims power. There is a teaching in Buddhism that, when fully understood, changes the way you experience every interaction, every conflict, every wound. It sounds almost impossible at first, even offensive to the part of us that feels deeply hurt. Yet, it is one of the most freeing truths the Buddha ever pointed toward. No one can truly hurt you without your consent. This does not mean pain is imaginary. It does not deny cruelty, injustice, or loss. What it reveals is where suffering actually takes root. The Buddha was precise in his observation. Pain may arrive from the outside, but suffering is built on the inside. When someone speaks harshly, there is an initial sensation, perhaps shock, heat, or sadness. This is natural. The body reacts before the mind can intervene. But what happens next is where choice begins. The mind interprets. It assigns meaning. It tells a story. This proves I am unworthy. This should not have happened. I must defend myself. That story determines whether pain passes through or settles in. Most of our long-term suffering comes not from what occurred, but from how long we carry it. Imagine being struck by an arrow. The first arrow is the event itself. The second arrow is the mental reaction, rumination, resentment, self-judgment. Buddhism teaches that the first arrow is unavoidable. The second is optional. Understanding this restores agency. The Buddha said, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path." This was not a burden placed on us, it was an empowerment offered to us. It means that while we cannot control what happens, we can cultivate the strength to remain inwardly free. Consider a tree in a storm. The wind does not ask permission. It arrives with force. Branches sway, leaves fall. But the tree's roots determine whether it stands or breaks. In the same way, your inner stability determines the depth of harm you experience. Inner strength is not something you are born with. It is something you train. Meditation is one of the primary tools the Buddha offered for this training. When you sit in stillness and observe the breath, you are not escaping the world, you are learning how the mind works. You see thoughts arise, peak, and dissolve. You learn that emotions do not last unless you cling to them. Over time, this realization becomes embodied. You no longer believe every thought. You no longer obey every impulse. Mindfulness extends this practice into daily life. When a painful moment occurs, mindfulness allows you to notice the reaction without being overtaken by it. You might feel anger rising, but you also see it rising. That awareness creates space, and in that space, freedom appears. Self-reflection deepens this process. Instead of asking, "Who hurt me?" you ask, "What within me is being touched?" Often the answer points to an old wound, a fear of rejection, a craving for approval. Seeing this clearly does not weaken you. It strengthens you. What is seen loses its power to control you. Another practice the Buddha emphasized is loving kindness, especially toward oneself. When you meet pain with hostility, it multiplies. When you meet pain with compassion, it softens. Extending kindness inward does not mean excusing harm. It means refusing to add cruelty to an already difficult moment. When you understand that suffering depends on participation, responsibility naturally shifts. You stop waiting for apologies to heal you. You stop requiring others to change in order for you to be at peace. You reclaim ownership of your inner world. This is not emotional suppression. It is emotional maturity. You still feel, you still care, but you no longer collapse into every passing emotion. You learn to respond instead of react. There is a simple practice the Buddha's teachings encourage in moments of hurt. First, pause. Do not speak immediately. Do not act immediately. Second, breathe. Let the body settle before the mind decides. Third, observe. Name the emotion without becoming it. Fourth, detach. Remind yourself that this moment does not define you. Fifth, choose. Respond in a way that protects your peace and reflects your values. Over time, this practice becomes natural. What once triggered days of turmoil becomes a brief ripple. You still notice the stone, but you trust the water to return to stillness. When you truly embody this principle, a profound freedom emerges. You no longer live in fear of being offended. You no longer walk through life armored against potential harm. You become open, not because you are naive, but because you are rooted. The world does not become gentle, but you become unshakable. In the next part, we will explore the quiet power of acceptance, a practice that releases resistance and allows life to unfold without tearing the heart apart. There is a form of peace that does not come from fixing life, escaping life, or winning against life. It comes from meeting life exactly as it is. Buddhism calls this acceptance, not as surrender to defeat, but as alignment with truth. This is the sixth principle, the power of acceptance. Acceptance is often misunderstood. Many believe it means giving up tolerating injustice or resigning oneself to suffering. The Buddha taught something far more subtle and far more powerful. Acceptance is the moment you stop arguing with reality. And when that argument ends, suffering begins to loosen its grip. Pain is inevitable. Resistance is optional. Every moment unfolds according to causes and conditions far larger than our personal wishes. When we refuse to accept what is happening, the mind tightens. It insists. This should not be this way. That insistence becomes tension. That tension becomes suffering. Acceptance removes the second layer. It allows pain to be just pain without turning it into a story of injustice, failure, or personal betrayal. Imagine standing in heavy rain. You can curse the sky, clench your fists, and demand that the clouds obey you. Or you can accept the rain, adjust your pace, and continue walking. The rain does not change either way, but your experience of it does. Acceptance does not mean liking the rain. It means stopping the futile fight against it. In Buddhism, acceptance begins with the present moment. The mind often lives in two places where peace cannot exist: the past and the future. Regret pulls us backward. Anxiety pulls us forward. Acceptance anchors us here, where life is actually happening. When something difficult arises, acceptance sounds like this. This is what is happening now. No embellishment, no denial, no resistance, just clear seeing. From this clarity, wise action becomes possible. Acceptance of situations allows us to respond instead of react. When we see circumstances clearly, we can make better choices. If there is something to change, acceptance shows us how. If there is nothing to change, acceptance teaches us how to endure without breaking. There is a story often told in Buddhist teachings about a farmer whose horse ran away. Neighbors came saying, "What terrible luck." The farmer replied, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned with wild horses. "What great luck," they said. "Maybe," he replied. Later, the farmer's son broke his leg trying to ride one of the wild horses. "What terrible luck." "Maybe." Then soldiers came to recruit young men for war and passed over the injured son. Good or bad? The farmer never rushed to label events. He accepted each moment as it came. Acceptance does not judge life prematurely. This wisdom extends deeply into our relationships. We often suffer because we expect people to be different than they are. We want them to heal faster, understand more, apologize sooner, change behaviors on our timeline. Acceptance recognizes that each person moves at their own pace. When we accept others as they are, we release ourselves from endless frustration. This does not mean abandoning boundaries. Acceptance can coexist with firmness. You can accept that someone is the way they are and still choose distance. You can accept a situation and still take action to improve it. Acceptance simply removes hatred from the equation. Perhaps the most difficult form of acceptance is self-acceptance. Many people live at war with themselves, fighting their past mistakes, their perceived flaws, their unmet expectations. Buddhism teaches that self-judgment is one of the deepest sources of suffering. When you reject parts of yourself, you fracture your own wholeness. Self-acceptance does not mean complacency. It means acknowledging who you are now without contempt. Growth becomes possible only from a place of honesty. When you accept yourself, you stop wasting energy on shame and begin using it for transformation. Impermanence plays a crucial role here. Everything changes. Emotions rise and fall. Circumstances shift. Identities evolve. When you understand impermanence, acceptance becomes easier. You no longer cling so tightly to moments pleasant or painful, because you know they will pass. Acceptance also opens the door to compassion. When you stop resisting reality, you begin to understand it. And understanding naturally gives rise to kindness toward yourself, toward others, toward life. There are simple practices to cultivate acceptance. Mindfulness helps you observe what is present without judgment. Reflection on impermanence reminds you that nothing stays fixed. Gratitude shifts attention from what is wrong to what is still here. Letting go of control frees the mind from impossible demands. When you practice acceptance consistently, life softens. Not because problems disappear, but because you stop fighting what cannot be changed. You become adaptable, resilient, calm. The Buddha's teaching can be summarized: simply accept what is, let go of what was, and trust what will be. In this trust, peace begins to grow. In the next part, we will turn outward and explore how living in harmony with nature restores balance to the mind and reconnects us with a deeper rhythm of life. There is a rhythm older than thought, older than language, older than human struggle. It moves the oceans, shapes the mountains, and guides the silent turning of the stars. Buddhism teaches that when human life falls out of harmony with this rhythm, suffering quietly multiplies. When we realign with it, something ancient within us remembers how to rest. This is the seventh principle, living according to nature. Nature does not rush, yet everything is accomplished. The Buddha often taught in forests, under trees, beside rivers. This was not coincidence. Nature reflects the Dharma without words. It demonstrates impermanence through falling leaves, balance through changing seasons, and resilience through renewal after decay. When we observe nature closely, we see our own lives mirrored back to us without judgment, without urgency. Modern life pulls us away from these rhythms. Artificial light replaces sunrise. Endless noise replaces silence. Constant stimulation replaces stillness. We begin to live as if the body has no limits and the mind needs no rest. But the cost appears quietly: exhaustion, anxiety, disconnection. Living according to nature is not about rejecting modern life. It is about remembering what the body and mind were shaped for. One of the simplest ways to realign is through rhythm waking and resting with the day, allowing cycles of effort and restoration. The sun rises and sets without apology. The seasons change without regret. When we honor cycles in our own lives, work and rest, action and reflection, we regain balance. Nature also teaches adaptability. No season resists the next. Spring does not cling to blossoms when autumn arrives. Trees release their leaves without fear. In this, Buddhism finds a lesson: clinging creates suffering. Letting go allows renewal. When we resist change, we harden. When we flow with it, we strengthen. Another profound teaching of nature is interconnectedness. No being exists alone. The air you breathe was shaped by forests. The food you eat was shaped by soil and rain. Your body itself is a temporary arrangement of natural elements. When this is deeply understood, arrogance dissolves. Gratitude takes its place. This awareness naturally leads to care. To harm nature is to harm ourselves. To protect it is an act of self-respect. Time spent in nature calms the nervous system in ways the mind alone cannot. The sound of wind through trees, water moving over stone, birds calling at dawn. These are not distractions. They are reminders of a slower intelligence that holds life together. When the mind synchronizes with these patterns, agitation fades. Nature also simplifies. It does not accumulate. It does not hoard. It uses what is needed and releases the rest. Observing this invites us to question our own excesses of consumption, of worry, of attachment. Simplicity is not deprivation. It is clarity. Buddhism does not ask us to escape the world, but to belong to it again. You can live according to nature in small, practical ways. Spend time outdoors without an agenda. Eat foods closer to their natural state. Allow silence into your day. Notice the sky. Feel the ground beneath your feet. These are not trivial acts. They are acts of remembrance. Nature is also a teacher of resilience. A river does not force its way through stone, it flows around it. A tree bends in the wind so it does not break. These are not metaphors created by philosophy. They are instructions written into the world. When you face obstacles, ask, how would water move here? How would the forest respond? Often the answer is patience, flexibility, and persistence without aggression. Living in harmony with nature restores humility. You remember that you are not separate from life, you are an expression of it. This realization quiets the ego and soothes the heart. In the next part, we will turn inward again and explore ethical living, not as rigid morality, but as a foundation for inner peace and clarity of mind. At the heart of the Buddha's path lies a truth that is both simple and demanding. Peace is not something we think our way into, it is something we live our way into. This is why ethical living stands at the core of Buddhism, not as a list of rigid rules, but as a way of aligning the mind, the heart, and our actions so that they no longer pull against each other. This is the 8th principle: focus on ethical living. The Buddha taught that the mind is the forerunner of all things. What we think we become. But thoughts do not remain in the mind. They spill into words. Words shape actions. Actions shape habits. And habits shape the direction of our lives. Ethical living is the art of tending this entire chain with awareness. When our actions contradict our values, the mind cannot rest. Even if no one sees, something within us knows. That quiet unease, that background tension, is the cost of living out of alignment. Ethical living removes this inner friction. It allows the mind to become clear, the heart to become light. In Buddhism, ethics are rooted in compassion and wisdom, not fear or punishment. The Buddha did not say live rightly or you will be condemned. He said in effect, live wisely and you will suffer less. Ethics are not imposed from outside. They arise naturally when we understand cause and effect. This is the law of karma, not as fate, but as consequence. Every action plants a seed. Some seeds grow into peace. Others grow into unrest. Ethical living is the conscious choice to plant seeds that nourish rather than poison. One of the first places ethics appear is in speech. Words are powerful. They can heal or divide, soothe or inflame. Harsh speech often comes from unexamined emotion, anger seeking release, pride seeking dominance, fear seeking control. When we speak without mindfulness, we scatter suffering. Ethical speech asks us to pause before speaking. Is this true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Silence in Buddhism is often wiser than speech. Not all truths need to be spoken. Not all opinions need to be voiced. Restraint is not suppression, it is discernment. Then there is action. Ethical action means choosing behaviors that do not harm ourselves or others. This includes obvious acts, violence, dishonesty, exploitation, but also subtler ones, manipulation, neglect, selfishness, disguised as necessity. When we act ethically, the body relaxes. There is no need to look over the shoulder, no need to justify ourselves endlessly. The Buddha also emphasized right livelihood, earning a living in ways that do not cause harm. Work occupies a large portion of our lives. When our work conflicts with our conscience, stress multiplies. When our work aligns with our values, even difficulty feels meaningful. Ethical living also extends to how we consume. What we buy, what we support, what we encourage through our choices, all of these shape the world we live in. Buddhism invites mindfulness here too, not perfection, but awareness. At the root of ethical living is intention. Two people can perform the same action with very different intentions and experience very different outcomes in the mind. Intention is the bridge between thought and action. When intentions are rooted in greed, hatred, or ignorance, suffering follows. When they are rooted in generosity, kindness, and clarity, peace grows. Ethics also protect us from ourselves. When we abandon ethical boundaries, we may gain short-term pleasure or advantage, but we lose something far more valuable: self-trust. Without self-trust, inner peace is fragile. With it, the mind stands firm. Ethical living does not mean moral superiority. In fact, it humbles us. We become more aware of our own capacity for harm, and therefore less eager to judge others. Compassion deepens. Patience grows. There are simple, practical ways to cultivate ethical living. Notice your intentions before you act. Practice honesty even when it is uncomfortable. Choose kindness, especially when it is inconvenient. Avoid actions that bring regret, even if they promise pleasure. Reflect regularly on how your choices affect your peace. When mistakes happen, and they will, ethical living does not demand punishment. It invites responsibility. Acknowledge the harm. Learn from it. Make amends where possible. Then return to the path without self-hatred. The gift of ethical living is a quiet mind. When you live in alignment with your values, meditation deepens naturally. Relationships become simpler. Sleep comes easier. You are no longer divided against yourself. In the next part, we will explore a practice that softens the heart and brightens even the darkest days. Gratitude, a discipline that transforms how we see everything we already have. There is a gentle practice that does not demand silence, isolation, or years of training. Yet it has the power to transform how we experience every moment of our lives. Buddhism places this practice at the heart of inner peace because it quietly reshapes the mind from scarcity to abundance. This is the ninth principle, the practice of gratitude. Gratitude is not denial of suffering. It is not forced optimism. It is the art of seeing clearly what is already here. The Buddha understood that the mind left untrained naturally leans toward dissatisfaction. It notices what is missing more quickly than what is present. It remembers pain longer than kindness. Gratitude gently retrains this habit. It teaches the mind to rest in appreciation without becoming complacent. When we practice gratitude, we stop measuring life by what it fails to deliver and begin honoring what it quietly provides. Gratitude begins with awareness. Many blessings go unnoticed because they are constant. Breath, shelter, food, the ability to see, hear, walk, or think. These are not small gifts. They are foundations. Yet the mind often treats them as background noise, focusing instead on what has gone wrong. Buddhism invites us to reverse this tendency, not by ignoring pain, but by widening our field of attention. A difficult day may still contain warmth, a moment of silence, a kind gesture, a lesson learned, a chance to begin again. Gratitude finds these moments and holds them gently. In doing so, it prevents suffering from defining the entire experience. One of gratitude's greatest strengths is its ability to protect the mind from bitterness. When resentment grows, gratitude acts as an antidote. It does not erase injustice, but it keeps the heart from hardening. A hardened heart suffers even when circumstances improve. A grateful heart remains alive even when circumstances are difficult. Gratitude also strengthens relationships. When appreciation is expressed, connection deepens. People feel seen. Trust grows. Even simple acknowledgments, "Thank you. I see your effort. I appreciate your presence," can transform the emotional climate between beings. In Buddhism, gratitude is closely tied to humility. Recognizing that much of what sustains us comes from beyond our control dissolves arrogance. We did not create the sun. We did not invent the air. We did not choose many of the conditions that support our lives. Gratitude acknowledges interdependence, and from that acknowledgement, compassion arises. Gratitude also becomes a source of resilience during hardship. When life becomes heavy, gratitude anchors us. It reminds us that difficulty is not the totality of our existence. Even in loss, there may be love remembered. Even in uncertainty, there may be strength discovered. Even in pain, there may be growth unfolding. The Buddha encouraged reflection at the end of each day, not to judge, but to notice. What went well? What was learned? What kindness was given or received? This reflection trains the mind to recognize goodness without clinging to it. There are many ways to cultivate gratitude in daily life. Pausing to acknowledge simple comforts, reflecting on lessons rather than only outcomes, expressing appreciation to others openly, keeping a quiet mental note of moments of ease, offering silent thanks even for small mercies. Gratitude also softens envy and comparison. When we are rooted in appreciation, we are less tempted to measure our lives against others. We recognize that worth is not a competition. Each life contains its own gifts. Importantly, gratitude does not mean passivity. It does not replace action or responsibility. It simply ensures that action arises from clarity rather than bitterness. A grateful mind acts with steadiness. A resentful mind acts with urgency and distortion. Over time, gratitude reshapes identity. You no longer see yourself primarily as someone lacking. You begin to experience yourself as someone participating in a vast web of support. This shift brings contentment, not because life is perfect, but because it is enough. The Buddha taught that a thankful mind is a peaceful mind, not because it denies suffering, but because it refuses to let suffering erase everything else. In the final part of this journey, we will explore a principle that ties all the others together, trusting the process and letting go of control, the art of flowing with life, rather than wrestling against it. There comes a moment on the path when effort alone is no longer enough. You have practiced discipline. You have cultivated awareness. You have softened your heart through compassion and gratitude, and yet suffering still arises, not because you have failed, but because you are holding too tightly. This is where the final principle reveals itself. Trust the process and let go of control. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is attachment, not attachment only to things, but to outcomes, identities, expectations, and imagined futures. We cling to how life should unfold. When reality refuses to cooperate, the mind tightens and peace collapses. Letting go does not mean abandoning responsibility. It means releasing the illusion that you can control everything. Imagine holding sand in your hand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips away. When you relax your grip, it rests naturally. Life responds in much the same way. Much of our anxiety comes from trying to manage the uncontrollable. We plan excessively, rehearse conversations that have not happened, replay decisions that cannot be undone. The mind confuses preparation with control. Buddhism gently points out the difference. You can act wisely in the present, but you cannot dictate results. Trusting the process means placing your faith in cause and effect rather than obsession with outcomes. You tend the seeds, your actions, intentions, and efforts, and you allow time and conditions to determine the harvest. When this trust is present, urgency fades. Patience grows. The Buddha often emphasized the middle way, neither passivity nor grasping. You walk the path with sincerity, then release your demand that it unfold according to your timeline. This balance brings peace because it honors effort without breeding tension. Attachment to control is especially visible in relationships. We want people to change, to understand, to respond exactly as we hope. When they do not, frustration follows. Letting go here does not mean indifference. It means allowing others to be themselves while remaining rooted in your own integrity. In personal growth, this principle is equally essential. Many suffer because they demand immediate transformation. They want enlightenment without confusion, healing without discomfort, progress without setbacks. Buddhism teaches that growth is gradual, uneven, and non-linear. Trusting the process means allowing yourself to evolve without constant self-judgment. The present moment is the only place where life can be lived. When you release obsession with the future and regret about the past, attention returns to now. In this return, peace becomes accessible. There are practical ways to cultivate trust and letting go. Notice when the mind is clinging to a specific outcome. Gently redirect attention to what can be done now. Use the breath as an anchor when anxiety arises. Reflect on impermanence. Everything changes. Remind yourself that effort is yours. Results are not. Meditation on non-attachment deepens this understanding. Visualize releasing expectations like leaves floating downstream. They do not disappear. They simply no longer weigh you down. Trust also requires humility. It acknowledges that the mind does not see the full picture. What appears as failure may later reveal itself as redirection. What feels like loss may create space for something more aligned. Buddhism does not promise that everything will be pleasant. It promises that everything can be meaningful. When you let go of control, something remarkable happens. The body relaxes. The breath deepens. The mind becomes less reactive. You begin to respond to life instead of bracing against it. This is not resignation. It is wisdom. The Buddha said, "You only lose what you cling to." When you loosen your grip, you discover that peace was never missing. It was simply obscured by effortful holding. By integrating all 10 principles, non-attachment to insults, learning from others, transforming envy, disciplined compassion, inner responsibility, acceptance, harmony with nature, ethical living, gratitude, and trust, you cultivate a mind that is steady, open, and free. The world may remain uncertain. Life may remain imperfect. But within you, something has settled, and from that stillness, true peace flows. When the mind begins to taste stillness, a new challenge quietly emerges. It is no longer the chaos of the world that disturbs you most, but the subtle restlessness within the need to be someone, to arrive somewhere, to become complete. Buddhism names this tendency clearly the illusion of a solid self, and so the next doorway opens naturally, understanding non-self. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering is rooted in the belief that there is a fixed, permanent me that must be defended, improved, validated, and protected. This belief is subtle. It hides inside pride and shame alike, inside comparison and fear, inside the endless internal dialogue asking, how am I doing? How am I seen? Am I enough? Non-self does not mean you do not exist. It means you do not exist in the way you think you do. What you call self is a process changing sensations, emotions, thoughts, memories, and roles arising and passing moment by moment. Like a river, it appears continuous, but it is never the same water twice. When you cling to the idea of a fixed identity, you suffer every time reality contradicts it. If you believe I am always calm, anger becomes a threat. If you believe I must be respected, criticism becomes unbearable. If you believe I am my success, failure becomes annihilation. Seeing through non-self loosens these chains. The Buddha invited us to observe experience directly. Where is this self? Is it in the body which ages and changes? Is it in thoughts which appear uninvited and disappear on their own? Is it in emotions which rise and fall like tides? The more closely you look, the harder it becomes to find a permanent center. What remains is not emptiness in the sense of nothingness, but openness. When you stop clinging to a rigid identity, life becomes lighter. You no longer need to defend an image. You no longer take everything personally. Praise passes through. Blame passes through. You respond from presence rather than ego. This is not detachment from life. It is intimacy with life. Consider a simple example. When someone criticizes you, what exactly are they criticizing? A behavior, a moment, an opinion, not an eternal essence. When you no longer confuse these temporary expressions with your entire being, criticism loses its sting. Non-self also softens your relationship with others. When you see that they too are processes shaped by conditions, compassion becomes natural. You stop expecting consistency from impermanent beings. You stop demanding clarity from confused minds. This does not make you passive, it makes you realistic. The practice of non-self grows through mindfulness. When a thought arises, I am failing you notice it as a thought, not a truth. When pride arises, I am superior. You notice it as a sensation, not an identity. Over time, identification weakens. Freedom strengthens. There is great relief here. You no longer need to constantly improve the self because you see there is no solid thing to perfect. Growth still happens, but without self-violence. Learning continues, but without shame. Responsibility remains, but without obsession. The Buddha did not ask us to destroy the self. He asked us to stop mistaking a useful label for an ultimate reality. When you understand non-self, forgiveness becomes easier. There is less to protect, less to prove, less to avenge. You become spacious enough to let life move through you without leaving scars. In the next part, we will explore how this understanding naturally gives rise to compassion, not as a moral duty, but as a spontaneous response to seeing clearly. When the illusion of a solid self begins to loosen, something unexpected arises, not emptiness, but warmth, not detachment, but tenderness. As the boundaries of me soften, the heart naturally opens toward others. This is not forced kindness or moral obligation. It is the natural flowering of understanding. This is where compassion is born. The Buddha taught that wisdom and compassion are not separate paths. They are two expressions of the same seeing. When you truly understand the nature of suffering, you no longer ask who deserves care. Compassion becomes spontaneous, like a hand reaching out before the mind has time to calculate. Compassion in Buddhism does not begin with others. It begins with insight. When you see that all beings are caught in conditions they did not fully choose, habits shaped by upbringing, fears inherited from pain, desires conditioned by survival, the impulse to judge weakens. You may still see harmful actions clearly, but hatred no longer feels justified. You recognize suffering speaking through behavior. This does not make you naive, it makes you awake. True compassion is not pity. Pity looks down. Compassion stands alongside. It says, I see your pain because I know pain too. This recognition dissolves the artificial distance between the one who suffers and the one who helps. The Buddha often described compassion as a response, not a strategy. It arises when the heart is no longer defended. When you stop clinging to a rigid self, you stop interpreting others as threats to that self. From this safety, kindness flows. Yet compassion is not always soft in appearance. Sometimes it is quiet presence. Sometimes it is firm boundaries. Sometimes it is silence instead of advice. Buddhism does not confuse compassion with indulgence. Allowing harm to continue is not kindness. True compassion seeks the reduction of suffering, yours and others. One of the most misunderstood aspects of compassion is that it includes yourself. Many people attempt to be compassionate outwardly while remaining harsh inwardly. This imbalance leads to burnout and resentment. The Buddha emphasized self-compassion as essential. If you cannot sit with your own pain without judgment, your compassion for others will always be strained. Self-compassion begins with honesty. You allow yourself to feel exhaustion, confusion, grief, or fear without labeling them as weakness. You speak to yourself as you would to a dear friend, not with indulgence, but with care. From this inner gentleness, outer compassion becomes sustainable. Compassion also deepens through the recognition of shared impermanence. Everyone you meet is aging. Everyone you meet will experience loss. everyone you meet will die. This is not meant to depress the heart, but to soften it. When you remember this truth, trivial conflicts lose importance. Harsh judgments feel unnecessary. There is a story of the Buddha encountering a man who insulted him angrily. The Buddha listened calmly. When the man finished, the Buddha asked, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong?" The man replied, "To the one who offered it." The Buddha smiled and said, "In the same way, I do not accept your anger." This was not superiority. It was compassion. The Buddha saw the man's suffering and refused to multiply it. Compassion also extends to how we see the world's suffering. News, injustice, and collective pain can overwhelm the heart if we try to carry it all personally. Buddhism teaches wise compassion care without collapse. You acknowledge suffering without drowning in it. You act where you can. You release what is beyond your reach. This balance is rooted in equanimity, the steady heart that remains open without being consumed. Practicing compassion does not require grand gestures. It begins with small moments, listening without interrupting, responding without contempt, choosing patience instead of reaction, offering understanding instead of assumption. These small acts change the inner climate. They also ripple outward in ways we cannot measure. As compassion deepens, something subtle happens. Forgiveness becomes possible, not because harm was acceptable, but because clinging to resentment no longer feels necessary. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is freeing yourself from the burden of carrying pain forward. The Buddha did not teach compassion as a commandment. He revealed it as a natural consequence of seeing clearly. When ignorance fades, cruelty loses its grip. When understanding grows, kindness follows. In the next part, we will explore how compassion matures into equanimity, the unshakable balance that allows the heart to remain open in the midst of joy and sorrow alike. As compassion deepens, another quality quietly stabilizes the heart. Without it, compassion can become overwhelming. Empathy can turn into exhaustion, and kindness can collapse under the weight of the world's pain. The Buddha named this stabilizing force equanimity, a calm, balanced presence that neither clings to pleasure nor resists pain. Equanimity is not indifference. It is intimacy without entanglement. The Buddha described equanimity as a mind that remains steady amid gain and loss, praise and blame, pleasure and pain. These 8 conditions move through every human life like changing weather. When the heart is untrained, it rises with praise and sinks with blame. When equanimity is cultivated, the heart remains grounded like a mountain beneath passing clouds. Equanimity does not eliminate emotion. It changes our relationship to it. Joy can be fully felt without fear of loss. Sadness can be fully met without despair. Anger can be observed without obedience. This balance arises from deep understanding, not force. Equanimity grows from seeing impermanence clearly. When you know that all experiences arise and pass, you stop clinging so tightly. You stop demanding that joy stay forever, or that pain disappear immediately. You allow life to move. There is great freedom in this allowing. The Buddha taught that suffering intensifies when we resist the natural flow of experience. We say, "This should not be happening." Equanimity replaces this with, "This is happening, and I can meet it with awareness." This does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop being owned by what you care about. Equanimity also protects compassion. Without it, compassion becomes personal. You begin to carry others' pain as if it were yours to solve entirely. With equanimity, you care deeply while recognizing limits. You help without burning. You love without clinging. This balance is essential in relationships. When you are overly attached to outcomes, interactions become charged. You need people to change. You need situations to resolve in specific ways. Equanimity allows you to show up fully without controlling. You become present rather than demanding. One of the Buddha's core insights was that peace comes not from arranging life, but from understanding it. Equanimity is understanding embodied. There is a simple image often used in Buddhist teachings, a skilled boatman crossing a river. He does not curse the current. He does not fight the water. He adjusts his steering. Equanimity is that skill responding wisely without inner turmoil. Cultivating equanimity requires practice. Mindfulness teaches you to observe experiences without labeling them as good or bad. Reflection on impermanence reminds you that nothing stays. Letting go of identification prevents emotions from defining you. Trusting cause and effect replaces anxiety with patience. When equanimity is present, the mind becomes spacious. You are no longer cramped by reactivity. Silence becomes nourishing. Simplicity becomes satisfying. Equanimity also brings dignity. You stop chasing validation. You stop fearing disapproval. You act from integrity rather than emotional reward. This steadiness earns respect, not because you demand it, but because it radiates. In moments of conflict, equanimity allows you to listen without collapsing or attacking. In moments of loss, it allows grief without self-destruction. In moments of success, it allows gratitude without arrogance. The Buddha did not promise constant happiness. He offered something deeper, unshakable balance. As equanimity matures, fear loses its urgency. You trust yourself to meet whatever arises. You no longer ask life to be different in order for you to be at peace. In the next part, we will explore silence not as absence, but as a profound teacher that reveals the deepest layers of the mind. There is a teacher that speaks without words, corrects without criticism, and reveals truth without argument. Most people avoid it, fill it, or fear it, yet the Buddha treated it as sacred ground. This teacher is silence. Silence is not emptiness. It is clarity without distraction. In a world saturated with noise, voices, opinions, notifications, inner commentary, silence becomes rare. But Buddhism teaches that silence is not merely the absence of sound, it is the presence of awareness. When noise recedes, the mind reveals itself. The Buddha often answered profound questions with silence, not because he lacked answers, but because some truths cannot be transmitted through language. They must be experienced directly. Silence creates the space for that experience. When you sit in silence, the mind initially resists. Thoughts rush in. Restlessness appears. Old memories surface. This is not failure. This is exposure. Silence shows you what has always been there beneath the noise. Most suffering hides in distraction. We stay busy not because life demands it, but because stillness threatens the stories we cling to. Silence removes those stories. It reveals raw experience, breath sensation, emotion without commentary. In this simplicity, the mind begins to settle. The Buddha taught that right speech includes knowing when not to speak. Words are powerful, but they are often used to avoid discomfort or assert identity. Silence interrupts this habit. It asks you to listen not only to others, but to yourself. In silence, you notice how often the mind narrates. It labels, judges, rehearses. As you observe this without interference, the grip of thought weakens. You discover that you are not your inner dialogue. You are the awareness that hears it. This realization is liberating. Silence also cultivates humility. When you stop explaining yourself constantly, you stop defending an image. You allow life to be as it is without commentary. This does not make you passive. It makes you precise. When you do speak, words carry weight. In relationships, silence can be an act of compassion. Listening without interruption creates safety. Allowing space without advice honors autonomy. Silence says, "I am here with you, not above you." The Buddha did not encourage silence as avoidance. He encouraged it as presence. Silence does not mean disengagement. It means full attention without interference. There is also healing in natural silence, the quiet of dawn, the stillness of night, the pause between breaths. These moments reset the nervous system. They remind the body that it is safe. Practicing silence can be simple. Sit quietly for a few minutes each day without stimulation. Resist the urge to fill every pause with words or devices. Listen fully when others speak without planning your response. Allow emotions to be felt without immediately naming them. Over time, silence becomes familiar rather than frightening. You begin to trust it. And in that trust, something profound occurs. The mind learns to rest in itself. From silence, insight arises. From insight, wisdom forms. From wisdom, compassionate action flows naturally. In the next part, we will explore patience not as endurance, but as a deep alignment with time itself. Patience is often mistaken for weakness, delay, or silent suffering. In Buddhism, it is none of these. Patience is strength without tension. It is the quiet confidence that time is not an enemy, and that forcing life only creates friction. The Buddha regarded patience as one of the highest virtues because it aligns the mind with the true pace of reality. Everything unfolds in its own time. Suffering intensifies when the mind demands immediacy, when it insists that pain must end now, that answers must appear, now that people must change now. Patience softens this urgency. It teaches the heart how to wait without despair and act without aggression. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active presence. When impatience arises, it is often fear in disguise. Fear that things will not resolve. Fear that discomfort will last forever. Fear that we are falling behind. The Buddha taught that this fear is rooted in misunderstanding impermanence. Nothing stays fixed. Not joy, not sorrow, not confusion. Patience trusts this truth. Imagine watching a seed planted in the ground. No amount of shouting will make it grow faster. Pulling it up to check its progress only kills it. Growth requires conditions: water, sunlight, time. Human transformation follows the same law. When you practice patience with yourself, you stop demanding instant mastery. You allow learning to be messy. You forgive setbacks. This patience prevents self-hatred from masquerading as discipline. Growth becomes sustainable rather than violent. Patience with others is equally liberating. People change slowly, often unevenly. When we demand immediate understanding or improvement, we create resistance. Patience allows space. In that space, real change becomes possible. The Buddha compared patience to armor. Not armor that hardens, but armor that absorbs impact. Insults lose their power. Delays lose their sting. Difficult emotions are met without panic. Patience also refines action. When you are patient, you respond at the right moment rather than the first moment. Words become measured. Decisions become clearer. Energy is conserved instead of scattered. There is a deep form of patience that emerges in meditation. Sitting with discomfort, an aching leg, a restless mind, you learn that sensations rise and fall without your intervention. This teaches trust. You stop rushing experience toward resolution. You learn to stay. This staying is transformative. Patience reshapes your relationship with time. You stop living as if life is a race with a finish line. You begin to inhabit moments fully without constantly reaching ahead. Presence replaces anticipation. The Buddha taught that impatience is a form of violence against reality. Patience is peacemaking. It refuses to fight what must unfold. There are ways to cultivate patience daily. Pause before responding. Notice the urge to rush and breathe instead. Remind yourself that understanding matures gradually. Allow discomfort to be present without demanding its disappearance. As patience deepens, anxiety loosens. You trust yourself to meet what comes. You no longer feel chased by time. In the next part, we will explore simplicity not as lack, but as freedom from excess. There is a quiet relief that comes when the mind stops accumulating. Not just possessions, but worries, desires, identities, and expectations. Buddhism names this relief clearly simplicity. It is not a life of lack. It is a life unburdened. Simplicity is freedom from excess, not only in what you own, but in what you carry. The Buddha lived simply not because the world had nothing to offer, but because he saw how easily the mind becomes entangled. Every extra attachment demands attention. Every unexamined desire pulls energy. Over time, the weight becomes invisible, but exhausting. Simplicity begins with seeing clearly what is essential. Most suffering does not come from what we truly need. It comes from what we believe we must have in order to be whole. Recognition, control, certainty, constant stimulation. When these are absent, anxiety arises not because life is lacking, but because expectations are inflated. The Buddha taught contentment as a form of wealth. When contentment is present, abundance is immediate. When it is absent, no amount of acquisition satisfies. Simplicity is not rejection. It is discernment. In a simple life, choices become cleaner. You begin to ask, does this nourish me or drain me? This question applies to objects, relationships, commitments, and even thoughts. Not every invitation requires acceptance. Not every thought deserves attention. Mental simplicity is especially powerful. The mind often clutters itself with hypothetical futures and rehearsed regrets. Simplicity invites the mind back to what is actually happening. One breath, one step, one task. This focus brings calm. Physical simplicity supports this inner clarity. When surroundings are uncluttered, the nervous system relaxes. When schedules are not overloaded, attention deepens. When consumption becomes mindful, satisfaction grows. Buddhism does not demand renunciation for all. It asks for awareness. You can own things without letting them own you. You can enjoy comfort without mistaking it for security. Simplicity also reshapes desire. Instead of chasing novelty, you begin to savor familiarity. Instead of needing more, you appreciate enough. This shift transforms ordinary moments into sources of peace. A simple meal becomes nourishing. A quiet walk becomes restorative. A single conversation becomes meaningful. The Buddha warned that craving multiplies suffering because it is never satisfied. Simplicity interrupts this cycle. It teaches the heart to rest. There is courage in simplicity. It often goes against social momentum. It may look unimpressive, but it protects your time, your energy, and your attention, your most precious resources. Simplicity also deepens gratitude. When life is uncluttered, blessings are easier to see. When the mind is not overwhelmed, joy is not drowned out. Practicing simplicity can begin gently. Release one unnecessary habit. Create space between commitments. Limit distractions that fragment attention. Choose depth over volume. Over time, simplicity becomes natural rather than forced. You begin to feel lighter, clearer, more present. In the next part, we will explore effort not as strain, but as right energy, how to act wholeheartedly without burning out. There is a kind of effort that exhausts the heart, and there is a kind of effort that strengthens it. Buddhism makes a clear distinction between the two. One is driven by fear, comparison, and pressure. The other arises from clarity, care, and purpose. The Buddha called this second kind right effort. Right effort is not about pushing harder. It is about aligning energy with wisdom. Many people live in a constant state of strain. They try to improve themselves through force, discipline, through self-criticism, progress through anxiety. This kind of effort may produce short-term results, but it quietly erodes joy. The mind becomes tight. The heart becomes weary. The Buddha observed that effort without understanding leads to burnout, while understanding without effort leads to stagnation. Right effort is the balance between these extremes. At its core, right effort has 4 movements preventing unwholesome states from arising, letting go of unwholesome states that have arisen, cultivating wholesome states that have not yet arisen, and sustaining wholesome states that are present. This is not a moral checklist. It is a practical guide for managing inner energy. Right effort begins with awareness. You notice what drains you and what nourishes you. You observe which thoughts agitate the mind and which thoughts settle it. From this observation, effort becomes intelligent rather than compulsive. For example, forcing yourself to meditate while exhausted and resentful is not right effort. But gently sitting for a few minutes with sincerity is. Pushing yourself to be kind while internally angry creates tension. But pausing to understand the anger before responding creates authenticity. Right effort respects limits. The Buddha did not praise relentless striving. He praised consistency rooted in care. Like a musician tuning a string, not too tight, not too loose. Right effort finds the middle tension where clarity resonates. This principle is especially important on a spiritual path. Many abandon practice not because it fails, but because they demand too much too quickly. They confuse intensity with sincerity. Right effort is patient. It trusts gradual transformation. Right effort also protects joy. When effort is aligned, practice becomes nourishing. You feel energized rather than depleted. Even challenges feel meaningful because they are approached with curiosity instead of self-judgment. Another key aspect of right effort is letting go. Sometimes effort means stopping. Releasing habits that no longer serve you is an act of courage. Rest is not laziness when it restores clarity. Pausing is not failure when it prevents collapse. The Buddha understood human energy deeply. He taught that the mind opens when it feels safe, not when it is threatened. Right effort creates that safety. In daily life, right effort might look like this: choosing one meaningful task instead of many shallow ones, practicing kindness without expecting recognition, resting when needed without guilt, returning to the path gently after falling away. Right effort also involves perseverance, but without harshness. When distractions pull you away, you return. When mistakes happen, you learn. When progress feels slow, you continue without despair. This steadiness builds trust in yourself. Over time, right effort becomes natural. You no longer need to motivate yourself through fear. Purpose sustains you. You act because it feels aligned, not because you are chasing worth. In the next part, we will explore trust not as blind belief, but as confidence born from experience, trusting yourself, the path, and life itself. There is a moment on the path when effort softens into confidence. You are no longer forcing yourself forward, yet you are not drifting. Something steadier has taken root. This is trust, not blind belief, not borrowed faith, but a quiet knowing born from direct experience. The Buddha never asked his followers to believe without seeing. He asked them to observe, to test, to verify within their own lives. Trust in Buddhism grows the same way a tree grows slowly, through repeated contact with truth. At first, trust is fragile. You practice mindfulness and it helps a little. You let go of an argument and peace returns sooner than expected. You sit with discomfort and it passes. These moments are small, but they accumulate. Over time, they form evidence. The mind begins to relax its suspicion. You start to trust that you can meet life without collapsing. This is the trust that replaces fear. Much anxiety comes from a lack of trust, not in others, but in ourselves. We doubt our ability to cope. We fear that pain will overwhelm us, that uncertainty will break us, that loss will empty us. The Buddha taught that this fear is not rooted in reality, but in unfamiliarity with our own strength. Trust grows when you see yourself survive moments you once believed were unbearable. Each time you respond rather than react, trust deepens. Each time you let go and nothing terrible happens, trust strengthens. Each time you fall and stand again, trust matures. This trust is not arrogance. It does not say nothing bad will happen. It says whatever happens, I can meet it. Trust also extends to the path itself. There are periods when practice feels dry, when insight seems distant, when old habits resurface. Without trust, these moments feel like failure. With trust, they are understood as part of the rhythm of growth. The Buddha compared practice to walking through a forest at night with a lantern. You cannot see the entire path. You only see a few steps ahead, but those steps are enough. Trust allows you to keep walking without demanding certainty. Trust in life does not mean expecting life to be kind. It means recognizing that life is workable. That meaning can emerge even from difficulty, that nothing is wasted when met with awareness. This kind of trust dissolves the urge to control everything. You stop bracing against uncertainty. You begin to cooperate with it. This cooperation does not weaken you, it steadies you. Trust also reshapes relationships. You stop needing constant reassurance. You stop clinging to outcomes. You give others room to be themselves, and you give yourself room to grow. Attachment softens into presence. The Buddha taught that doubt is not an enemy to be crushed, but a question to be explored. When doubt arises, you return to practice. You observe, you feel, you learn. Trust grows not by suppressing doubt, but by understanding it. Practically, trust can be cultivated through simple reminders. Recall moments when letting go brought relief. Remember challenges you have already survived. Notice how emotions rise and fall without your control. Rest in the present moment where life is actually happening. As trust deepens, the future loses its grip. You stop rehearsing disasters. You stop demanding guarantees. You live more fully now, not because you are certain, but because you are grounded. In the next part, we will explore devotion, not as worship, but as wholehearted commitment to what awakens the heart. When trust has taken root, the heart naturally leans towards something deeper than effort and deeper than understanding. It leans toward devotion, not as blind worship, but as wholehearted commitment to what brings clarity, compassion, and freedom. In Buddhism, devotion is not about surrendering your intelligence. It is about offering your life to what awakens it. Devotion means you care deeply. Many misunderstand devotion as dependence. The Buddha taught the opposite. True devotion strengthens independence of mind. It is the commitment to live in alignment with truth, even when convenience, comfort, or habit pull in other directions. Devotion gives direction to effort. Without devotion, practice becomes mechanical. Mindfulness becomes technique. Ethics become obligation. With devotion, practice becomes alive. There is warmth behind discipline, meaning behind restraint, joy behind perseverance. The Buddha's own devotion was not to an idea, but to liberation from suffering for himself and all beings. This intention infused everything he did. Devotion, in this sense, is simply remembering why you walk the path. Devotion does not require belief in doctrine. It requires sincerity. You can feel devotion when you sit quietly, because stillness matters. You feel devotion when you choose kindness, because cruelty feels wrong. You feel devotion when you return to awareness after distraction, because clarity matters more than comfort. This devotion is not dramatic. It is steady. In Buddhism, devotion often expresses itself through respect for the teachings for those who have walked the path before and for the potential within yourself. This respect protects practice from becoming casual or self-indulgent. Devotion also provides strength during difficulty. When motivation fades, devotion remains. When insight stalls, devotion sustains patience. It carries you through periods when the path feels uncertain. Importantly, devotion is not rigid. It evolves. At times it looks like discipline. At times it looks like gentleness. At times it looks like rest. Devotion listens. It adapts. There is also devotion to truth itself. This devotion demands honesty, especially with yourself. It asks you to see clearly even when clarity is uncomfortable. This kind of devotion is courageous. The Buddha warned against devotion that turns into attachment. When devotion becomes identity, I am spiritual, I am advanced, it loses its power. True devotion is quiet. It does not announce itself. In daily life, devotion can be cultivated by small acts of sincerity, returning to the breath when the mind wanders, choosing ethical action when no one is watching, listening deeply instead of reacting quickly, releasing pride in favor of understanding. Devotion also reminds you that you are part of something larger than personal success or failure. You walk a path shaped by countless beings before you and alongside you. This perspective brings humility and gratitude. As devotion matures, it becomes less about striving and more about alignment. You no longer practice to become someone. You practice to remember what matters. In the next part, we will explore letting go at the deepest level, not only of control, but of the need to become anything at all. Type continue to receive the next part. Part 20. There comes a quiet threshold on the path where effort softens into ease, where seeking gives way to settling. Up to this point, practice may have felt like movement, learning, refining, correcting. Now, a deeper invitation appears. Let go not only of control, but of the need to become anything at all. The Buddha taught that the final knot of suffering is subtle. It is not desire for pleasure or fear of pain. It is the constant impulse to be someone, to improve, to arrive, to secure an identity that finally feels complete. Even spiritual striving can become another costume the self wears. Letting go at this level is not giving up on growth. It is seeing that what you are seeking is not in the future. It is already present when grasping ceases. You have likely noticed moments, brief, unplanned, when the mind rested effortlessly, perhaps while watching the sky, listening to music, or sitting quietly with someone you love. In those moments, there was no project of self-improvement, no commentary, just presence. Peace did not arrive, it was revealed. This is the peace the Buddha pointed to. Non-becoming is not stagnation. It is intimacy with what is. When the mind stops chasing an imagined version of itself, attention returns fully to life as it unfolds. Actions still happen. Choices are still made, but they arise from clarity, not lack. The Buddha described this as freedom from craving, not only craving for things, but craving for identity. When this craving weakens, comparison dissolves. You stop measuring progress. You stop asking if you are ahead or behind. You walk without keeping score. This does not make you passive, it makes you authentic. Letting go of becoming also softens fear. If you are no longer trying to protect an image of who you should be, criticism loses its power. Failure loses its drama. Success loses its intoxication. You remain human, responsive, engaged, alive without being trapped by outcomes. Meditation supports this letting go by revealing how little effort is needed to be aware. You do not create awareness. You notice it. Thoughts arise and pass. Sensations change, yet something steady remains the knowing itself. Resting there requires no improvement. The Buddha did not ask us to destroy the self. He asked us to stop burdening it. When you let go of becoming, compassion deepens naturally. You no longer see others as competitors or mirrors of your worth. You see them as fellow travelers, each navigating conditions beyond full control. Kindness becomes effortless. This letting go also transforms effort. You still act with care, but without tension. You still learn, but without self-violence. You still grow, but without anxiety. Growth becomes organic. There is a quiet joy here, not excitement, not achievement, but ease. The ease of not needing to prove anything. The ease of being sufficient. The Buddha compared this freedom to setting down a heavy load after a long journey. Nothing new is gained. What changes is what is no longer carried. As you rest more often in this non-becoming life, feels less like a problem to solve and more like a mystery to inhabit. You respond with curiosity rather than control. You meet moments as they are. In the next part, we will explore how this freedom expresses itself in everyday action, how wisdom naturally shapes speech, movement, and relationship without effort. When the need to become dissolves, life does not stop moving. On the contrary, it begins to move more naturally. Action continues. Words are spoken. Decisions are made, but they no longer arise from inner conflict. They arise from clarity. This is how wisdom expresses itself in everyday life, quietly, precisely, without strain. The Buddha did not teach wisdom as an abstract understanding. He taught it as a way of walking, speaking, and relating. When the mind is no longer clouded by grasping, wisdom does not need to announce itself. It becomes visible in ordinary conduct. Wise action feels simple. It is the moment you pause before speaking and choose silence instead of proving a point. It is the moment you feel anger rising and choose to breathe rather than react. It is the moment you know when to act and when to step back without guilt in either direction. This kind of wisdom does not come from calculation. It comes from presence. When awareness is steady, the body and mind sense what is appropriate. You listen more deeply. You notice subtle cues. You feel when something is aligned and when it is not. This sensitivity is not anxiety, it is attunement. The Buddha described this as right action and right speech, arising naturally from right understanding. When confusion clears, ethical behavior does not feel imposed. It feels obvious. You do not need rules to tell you not to touch fire once you understand that it burns. Wise speech is one of the clearest expressions of this understanding. Words are no longer used to manipulate, impress, or defend. They are used to clarify, connect, or remain silent when clarity is not needed. Speech becomes lighter. Fewer words carry more meaning. Wisdom also shapes listening. You stop listening to respond. You listen to understand. In this listening, many conflicts dissolve before they form. People feel seen. Tension softens. Wise movement is equally subtle. You begin to sense when you are rushing unnecessarily, when you are pushing against life rather than cooperating with it. You slow down without becoming lazy. You act decisively without becoming aggressive. This balance is the fruit of long attention. In relationships, wisdom expresses itself as honesty without cruelty and kindness without pretense. You set boundaries without anger. You offer care without self-erasure. You let go when holding on causes harm. You stay when leaving would be avoidance. There is also wisdom in knowing your limits. The Buddha did not encourage endless giving. He encouraged sustainable compassion. Wise action includes rest. It includes saying no. It includes stepping back before resentment grows. Wisdom recognizes that you cannot carry the whole world. Another sign of wisdom is simplicity of response. Instead of complex strategies, you choose directness. Instead of stories, you choose facts. Instead of assumptions, you choose questions. This simplicity prevents suffering from multiplying. As wisdom matures, life feels less personal, not cold, but spacious. Events happen, but they are not always interpreted as judgments on your worth. This perspective creates resilience. You recover faster. You adapt more easily. Wisdom also brings humor. When the ego relaxes, you can laugh at your own habits. You see patterns without shame. This lightness is healing. The Buddha often emphasized that wisdom and compassion are inseparable. When you act wisely, harm decreases naturally. When harm decreases, peace spreads first within you, then outward. You may not notice this transformation immediately. Others might notice before you do. Conversations become calmer. Choices become cleaner. Regret becomes rare. This is not because you are perfect. It is because you are present. In the next part, we will explore how this presence allows you to live fully with uncertainty, how not knowing becomes a source of freedom rather than fear. There is a quiet fear that follows many people through life, often unnamed, but deeply felt: the fear of not knowing. Not knowing what will happen. Not knowing if choices are right. Not knowing who we will become. The mind treats uncertainty as a threat, something to eliminate as quickly as possible. Buddhism offers a radically different invitation: learn to live well without certainty. Uncertainty is not a flaw in life. It is the nature of life. The Buddha never promised clarity about outcomes. He offered clarity about how to meet whatever arises. When we demand certainty, we tighten against reality. When we allow uncertainty, the heart opens into flexibility. Most anxiety is not caused by what is happening, but by the mind's refusal to accept that it cannot know everything. We plan excessively, analyze endlessly, and seek guarantees that do not exist. This effort exhausts us, yet never fully satisfies. The Buddha taught that wisdom does not come from controlling the future, but from being fully present now. When you accept uncertainty, something surprising happens. You stop postponing peace. You stop saying, "I'll relax once I know." You begin to live. Attention returns to this breath, this step, this conversation. Life becomes immediate rather than hypothetical. Uncertainty also keeps the heart humble. When you admit you do not know, curiosity replaces arrogance. You listen more, you assume less. This humility protects you from rigid views that fracture understanding and relationships. There is also creativity in uncertainty. When outcomes are not fixed, possibility expands. New responses appear. Growth takes unexpected directions. Many of life's most meaningful transformations arise from moments that were not planned. The Buddha encouraged inquiry, not certainty. He asked questions like, what leads to suffering? What leads to peace? These questions are alive. They do not demand final answers. They invite ongoing awareness. In meditation, uncertainty is encountered directly. You sit without knowing what will arise. Sometimes calm appears, sometimes restlessness, sometimes insight, sometimes boredom. You learn to stay regardless. This staying trains trust not in outcomes, but in your capacity to meet experience. Living with uncertainty does not mean abandoning discernment. It means releasing the demand for perfect knowledge before action. You act with the best understanding available now, then you remain open to learning. This openness makes you resilient. When plans change, you adjust rather than collapse. When answers do not arrive, you wait without panic. When clarity fades, you return to what you can touch: the breath, the body, the present moment. The Buddha taught that clinging to views is a subtle form of attachment. When you loosen this grip, the mind becomes spacious. You no longer need to be right. You need only be honest. Uncertainty also deepens compassion. When you recognize how little you truly know, judgment softens. You see others not as obstacles, but as fellow beings navigating confusion. Patience grows naturally. There is freedom in admitting I don't know, and that's okay. This freedom does not weaken you. It grounds you. You stop fighting the unknown and begin cooperating with it. Life feels less like a test and more like a dialogue. In the next part, we will explore presence not as concentration alone, but as a way of inhabiting life fully without fragmentation. When uncertainty is no longer feared, attention naturally settles into what has always been available: the present moment, not as an idea, not as a spiritual slogan, but as lived reality. Buddhism teaches that liberation does not occur in yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's plans. It occurs here. This is the quiet power of presence. Presence is not concentration in the narrow sense. It is wholeness. Most people live fragmented lives. The body is in one place. The mind is somewhere else. While eating, we are thinking. While listening, we are preparing to speak. While walking, we are rushing toward arrival. This fragmentation drains vitality. Presence restores it. The Buddha described mindfulness as remembering to be here, not forcing the mind to be still, but gently returning it to what is happening now. Breath, sensation, sound, movement. Presence is the reunion of attention with experience. When you are present, life becomes vivid. Colors sharpen, sounds deepen. Simple acts regain texture. But more importantly, suffering loses momentum. Most suffering relies on time travel, reliving the past, or fearing the future. Presence cuts this loop. This does not mean the past is denied or the future ignored. It means they are held lightly without replacing the now. Presence also transforms emotion. When anger arises and you meet it fully without resistance, without storytelling, it moves. When sadness is allowed to be felt without interpretation, it softens. Emotions thrive on avoidance or indulgence. Presence offers neither. The Buddha taught that feelings are visitors. Presence opens the door, offers awareness, and lets them leave when they are ready. In daily life, presence is profoundly practical. It allows you to notice subtle signals before they become crises. You sense fatigue before burnout, tension before conflict, joy before it slips unnoticed. Presence keeps you in conversation with yourself. Presence also improves relationships. When you are fully with someone, they feel it. They feel seen rather than managed, heard rather than evaluated. This quality of attention is rare and healing. There is humility in presence. You stop assuming you already know the moment. You meet it freshly. This openness prevents rigidity. It keeps the heart flexible. The Buddha did not romanticize presence. He acknowledged that staying present can be uncomfortable. It exposes restlessness, boredom, and pain we would rather escape. But he also taught that avoidance prolongs suffering. Presence ends the cycle. There are simple ways to cultivate presence throughout the day. Feel the breath as it enters and leaves the body. Notice physical sensations during routine tasks. Listen fully before responding. Pause briefly between activities. These small acts accumulate. Presence becomes less effortful. You stop forcing attention and begin allowing it. As presence deepens, life feels less hurried even when busy. You are doing one thing at a time. The nervous system settles. The mind becomes clearer. Presence also brings intimacy with impermanence. Each moment is known as fleeting. This awareness does not create anxiety. It creates appreciation. You stop postponing living. The Buddha taught that presence is the ground from which wisdom and compassion grow. Without it, teachings remain ideas. With it, they become embodied. In the next part, we will explore how presence matures into insight, seeing things as they truly are beyond habit and illusion. When presence becomes steady, something subtle yet decisive begins to happen. The mind no longer just experiences life, it begins to see through it. This seeing is not intellectual analysis or philosophical conclusion. It is insight, a direct, wordless understanding of how things truly are. The Buddha called this seeing vipassana, clear seeing. Insight arises naturally from presence. When you observe experience without interference, patterns reveal themselves. You notice that thoughts arise on their own. You notice that emotions change without permission. You notice that sensations appear, intensify, and fade. Nothing stays. Nothing obeys. Nothing belongs to a permanent me. This seeing is not dramatic. It is quietly destabilizing in the best possible way. For most of life, the mind assumes continuity where there is only process. It assumes control where there is only response. It assumes solidity where there is only flow. Insight gently dismantles these assumptions not by force, but by familiarity. When you see impermanence directly clinging weakens. When you see unsatisfactoriness directly craving softens. When you see non-self directly, ego loosens. This is the heart of Buddhist liberation. Insight does not make life cold or detached. It makes it honest. You stop expecting permanence from impermanent things. You stop seeking completion from incomplete conditions. You stop asking life to guarantee what it cannot promise. And in that honesty, peace deepens. One of the clearest signs of insight is reduced reactivity. Situations that once triggered strong emotional storms now pass with less turbulence. Not because you suppress feeling, but because you no longer take every experience personally. You see events as events, not verdicts. Insight also brings compassion without effort. When you see how conditioned your own reactions are, judgment toward others loses credibility. You recognize confusion as a shared human condition. Kindness becomes natural, not moral. The Buddha warned that insight cannot be rushed. Trying to force understanding only strengthens the ego's desire to control. Insight matures in its own time, like fruit ripening on a tree. Presence provides the conditions. Patience allows the process. There is also humility in insight. The more clearly you see, the less certain you become about fixed views. You stop clinging to opinions as identity. You listen more. You argue less. You remain open. Insight does not eliminate responsibility. It refines it. You act with greater care because you see consequences more clearly. You speak with more restraint because you understand how easily harm spreads. Wisdom expresses itself as gentleness. Meditation supports insight, not by creating special states, but by removing distractions. When the mind is not constantly pulled outward, it sees inward. When it sees inward, illusion weakens. Insight also reveals a quiet joy, not excitement, but relief. The relief of no longer fighting reality. The relief of not needing life to be other than it is in order to be at peace. This joy is stable because it does not depend on conditions. As insight matures, questions change. You stop asking, "How do I fix my life?" You begin asking, "How do I meet life wisely?" This shift marks a deep turning point. In the final part of this journey, we will bring everything together, not as a conclusion, but as a way of living. A life rooted in clarity, compassion, and quiet freedom. At the end of this journey, nothing grand is demanded of you. There is no final identity to claim, no title to wear, no destination to announce. What remains is something far simpler and far more profound, a way of living. The Buddha did not offer salvation through belief. He offered liberation through understanding. And understanding, when fully lived, changes how you breathe, how you listen, how you respond to the ordinary moments that quietly shape a life. You began with the longing for unshakable inner peace. Not a peace that hides from the world, but one that can remain steady in the middle of it. Along the way, you discovered that this peace is not found by controlling circumstances, silencing emotions, or perfecting yourself. It emerges when you stop fighting reality and start understanding it. You learned that insults lose their power when they are not given a home in the mind. That every person you meet can become a teacher when ego steps aside. That envy can be transformed into inspiration rather than resentment. That discipline guided by compassion builds strength without cruelty. That no one can truly hurt you unless you carry the wound forward. You saw how acceptance dissolves resistance and how living in harmony with nature restores balance. You recognized that ethical living clears the mind, gratitude softens the heart, and trust loosens fear. You explored non-self and found relief in no longer having to defend a fixed identity. You learned how compassion matures into equanimity, how silence teaches without words, and how patience aligns you with time itself. You discovered simplicity as freedom, right effort as sustainable energy, trust as lived confidence and devotion, as sincerity rather than belief. You let go of becoming and found ease. You learned to live with uncertainty and rest in presence. You saw clearly, and in seeing clearly, you suffered less. None of these teachings ask you to escape life. They ask you to meet life fully without distortion. The Buddha's path does not promise a life without loss, pain, or change. It offers something more reliable, a mind that does not collapse when these arise. A heart that remains open without being consumed. A clarity that guides action without force. This is what freedom looks like in daily life. You pause before reacting. You listen more than you defend. You forgive without erasing boundaries. You act without attachment to outcome. You rest without guilt. You stop asking life to guarantee your happiness. You stop asking yourself to be anything other than present. Peace is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you return to. And this return does not require special conditions. It happens in traffic, in conflict, in silence, in joy. It happens whenever you remember to breathe, to feel, to see without clinging. The Buddha once said that just as the ocean has one taste, the taste of salt, his teaching has one taste, the taste of freedom. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from unnecessary suffering. This freedom is not distant. It is available in each moment you choose awareness over habit, compassion over judgment, presence over escape. You will forget. Everyone does. You will be pulled back into old patterns. That is not failure. The path is not about never falling. It is about learning how to return. Each return is awakening in miniature. So walk gently. Practice sincerely. Trust what you have seen for yourself. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be honest. And in that honesty, peace will meet you again and again.